Welcome to Vibe and Shine, the podcast where prosperity meets personal growth. I'm Krista. I support mamas with ADHD to help them work with their brains, not against them.
And I'm Jessica. I'm your growth-minded guide who helps align with the most inspired and intentional version of yourself in both life and business.
In each episode, we'll dive into mindset shifts, strategies, and business insights that fuel success, while also keeping alignment and well-being at the center. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a leader, or someone on a journey of self-discovery, this is your space to grow, thrive, and create a life by design.
In today's part 2 episode of how to uncover and shift outdated systems within ourselves, we'll discuss ways to discover who we are now and what's standing in between we want to become.
Mm-hmm.
In the last episode, we touched on mechanisms like people-pleasing, leading to self-abandonment, hyper-independence leading to isolation, perfectionism leading to paralysis, and over-responsibility leading to burnout.
Mm-hmm. And we had so much fun talking about it. We needed to have a part 2 because there's just a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah.
Let's just dive in since we have a lot of things. Our next topic is the emotional suppression. This one hits home in a lot of different ways, knowing a lot of different people who do this, myself included. And when emotional suppression happens, that's when the disconnect can happen. Disconnection with people, work, all of those things. So what does emotional suppression look like? It's really the idea of staying safe by staying quiet. That way, you know, you're not making a decision one way or the other. You're not you're just
Out of it.
Yeah. That's a great way to say it.
Yeah. I think in childhood too, you're kind of playing it safe is a good way to put it.
Sure.
Maybe avoiding certain things and certain emotions just because you don't know how to deal with those things, or
True.
Maybe you don't even know that they're happening, unaware. So I think as a child, especially, we tend to kind of enclose ourselves in those spaces just because we don't want to reap the consequence of whatever the action might be emotionally.
Yeah, that's a really
So
good
we disconnect.
point. And, you know, all of these things we kind of learn in childhood, right? But that's a really strong one. I'm just thinking of my son who does that. Stays quiet, goes away and disconnects from the world. So,
And I think now it can come up with certain difficulty in identifying those emotions because same thing, you're unaware of those emotions, or you've never dealt with them in a different way, and maybe this is an outdated way to deal with them in adulthood.
right.
Versus when you're a child, it might be okay for you to go inside of, your room and just do exactly like what your son's doing, play video games, read a book, just hang out.
Yeah.
But that only delays the problem.
Right.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on it.
Yep.
So
Something under the rug.
yeah.
It also it minimizes the need to avoid being a burden.
Yep.
Again, just processing it.
Yeah. I agree with that too. Like, especially when I was a kid, I didn't want to do any wrong, by my parents. So I didn't want to be a burden to them. So I tried to do everything that I possibly could have to stay out of that emotional, dysregulation. And sometimes that meant staying quiet and just removing myself from the situation, which obviously in adulthood isn't the best way to handle that now. It's more of the communication that needs to be had, rather than disconnecting from the situation at all, because that just prolongs, like we said, the result being handled.
Right. It's that, be seen but not heard type thing that a lot of us, I think most of us, have really dealt with. There was something else I was going to say. Story of my life. I didn't write it down, guys. I got my pen. I'm gonna start writing things down. It'll come to me.
Take some notes.
Yeah.
In adulthood now, I know that we've experienced disconnection in a way other than just from certain situations, but feelings in general. So we have mechanisms like it could be showing up with scrolling, binge eating. Maybe it's exercising not enough or too much. Maybe it's not eating enough. There's other ways that, it can pop up, but that kind of, it literally can disconnect you from your emotional feelings because you haven't dealt with them yet. You're just finding another avenue to push those things through. And not saying that any of those things are inherently bad, but when you're avoiding the situation of dealing with your emotions, then that's how it can show up in adulthood.
Yeah. And I wrote down recognizing. I think it is really hard for us to recognize and be aware of those things if we don't have the tools, if we don't have if we don't know how to, I think a lot of us are like, oh yeah, I scroll. We say it all the time, but like it's a deeper thing when you're just getting lost in it. You are avoiding something. What is that? So yeah, let's talk about examples. When was a time that you've kind of emotionally suppressed your feelings and disconnected?
Well, I think for me, at some points now, it's a little bit difficult to, like, I have to ask myself, am I scrolling or doing X, Y, or Z because I'm trying to avoid something? Or is it just because, like, I can do those things?
Right. By choice?
Right. Yeah. Or just by not thinking about those things. I was actually listening to a podcast by Jill's, I think her last name is Guerin, something like that. She is awesome. And she was talking about emotional regulation and how she doesn't take her phone into the bathroom anymore because sometimes you get carried away and you're just sitting there and you're not regulating your nervous system by doing that. You're actually making it worse. And your brain needs time to have a second away from that. And not every second of the day has to be filled with something. And I think that's something that I struggled with a little bit. So constantly really unlearning patterns that we've just from society have built into our daily life. Slowing down when you're doing the dishes and things like that can actually help regulate. So for me, it's been a little bit of figuring out how to connect more with myself and not so much with the outside world. But an example for me was in a previous relationship, kind of losing myself and, my identity per se inside of the relationship or the future of what I wanted that relationship to look like with that person. And now I consciously don't do that anymore because I make sure that I am a separate entity than my partner because you need to be. You can't be enmeshed. So therefore, being able to, emotionally have that kind of sense of self allows me to connect with things better in my external world. And myself. And there's periods of time that it fades in and out, of course.
Sure.
But yeah, trying not to avoid the painful conversations and have them.
Right.
Because it's just easier to do it then and not let it build up over time.
Yeah.
So
I was just going to ask you, how is it different and how does it feel? I mean, you kind of just answered it, but
yeah,
in a way that
feels better. I mean, even with relating that to my career too, doing those things, then when I think of them, instead of waiting the next week or whatever it is, has helped me.
Yeah. Because
I don't sit in it.
Right. Think about the energy that you're holding on to because you eventually need to have that conversation or it's going to come out in some form, right? So by holding on to it, all that energy is just negative. And, sometimes you don't even know, but you have that feeling, that pit, that feeling of oh, I got to do this or I don't, and that's always going to be on your mind if you don't address it kind of right away.
Yeah. And I think consciously slowing down with those things too, like Jill, she was talking about when you're brushing your teeth, are you just doing it to get it done? Or are you doing it because you're doing it for a reason?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be another task that has to be done at speed. We're not meant to be these overly productive people. And I think that has taken a lot of the disconnection. It's not just the screens and scrolling.
True.
There's a lot of other elements inside of it.
True. One thing that you've told me a couple times is, you brush your teeth with your left hand, and it's just that more conscious way of, okay, what am I doing? How am I doing it? You walking like without headphones or without other noise, other distractions. It's just another way to intentionally connect with yourself. Take that time and focus on yourself. Not taking the phone in the bathroom. Like that's just, like you just kind of do it because it's a habit and it gives you something to do, but you're not focusing on what you're actually doing.
Yeah. It's kind of like counterproductive, I guess, counterintuitive too, because even at work, I'll have like that spare time, those few minutes where I have to go to the bathroom. It's like, oh my gosh, I have this email and this text and all these things and going into another meeting, I need to do this too. But it's like, those things can wait. Nothing has ever like exploded or blown up because I sent a text or an email an hour later, right? It's just people understand that this is what you do. You might be in a meeting. And I think that's something that I've had to come to a realization with like over time. So it's okay if I'm able to do that in reverse.
Yeah.
Like it kind of goes back to that people pleasing as well.
Right. You're giving yourself permission to not feel the need to immediately respond, which as our society expects that, people expect that.
Yeah. And then just trying to take that concept and put it back to yourself. Like you don't need to do these things super quick. You don't need to be scrolling like the pace of TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is just feeding that into you like instant gratification. So having your time away from that is super important to your well-being and not talked about enough.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard to be alone with yourself if you're not comfortable with yourself.
Oh yeah. So, extremely hard.
Yeah. So it makes sense that a lot of people do scroll and a lot of people do those things because they haven't actually taken the time to sit with themselves. And
I like to add to that too. Like in my past, there were times where I wasn't comfortable with myself and it was extremely painful to just sit there and spend time with myself. Like it sounds weird, but I'd like to challenge our listeners and viewers to think that there might be a part of you that you aren't comfortable with because you don't align with it. And it might have been someone else's identity that had been previously kind of put into your identity.
Yeah.
And so the beauty of it is you get to create whoever you want to be and you can alter it towards whatever you want to do in life and who you want to become. And I think that should give you hope and kind of be a light for you.
And I love just saying, like, you have a choice. We always have a choice. I don't think a lot of us, especially women, feel like we have a choice. We always have a choice. So remember that.
So the next coping mechanism that's outdated is control. And that leading to sometimes even severe chronic anxiety can lead to anxiety disorders, things like that as well. I knew as a child, for me, I was very obsessed over things being in order, like borderline OCD, if not, definitely had it. Wouldn't self-diagnose ever, but just wanted everything to be clean and in place. And growing up, I realized that had control over me. And so being able to kind of reverse it and just be like, okay, it was little steps at a time. Like, I don't need to put this item back exactly the way it was. This doesn't have to be uber clean, like all the time.
Right.
And nothing changed. So that's nothing changed with those things, right?
Right.
Within me, yes, it changed, but I was less anxious because I realized that no matter if the cup was 2 inches to the left or 2 inches to the right or whatever it might be, that doesn't change how I feel. Like if you get to that point, you're able to realize things kind of in a reverse way.
Some great self-awareness.
Yeah. It took a while, but
yeah. And it makes sense that you felt safe, right? Because you could control where the cup was. You could control X, Y, and Z. How many times, I'm thinking of OCD, how many times you wash your hands. You are in control of that, but that's kind of like a mental block because you are in control of the things that you do yourself. And how do I want to like say that? Like, you always have that choice, right? And so you made that choice to move the cup over a little and understand that you were still safe. You
and that's what it is. It's
safe.
The lack of control or control in general is just an inner need to feel safe and to feel like you know what's coming. Yeah. And that's what control is.
Yeah.
And the unknown is what scares a lot of people. And so the more that I've dove into the unknown, the more opportunities have been created for me.
Yeah.
The more light I felt, the less pressure and heaviness I felt. And life has been better in a sense where I don't feel, locked down at all. Another good example that I want to share is always being like literally having a panic attack about being late. So I used to, in high school, my sister used to drive me, and she was always late. She's always been late every second of her life. She'll probably be late to her own funeral. And I love her so much, but that's just her personality. That's who she is. She's on her own timeline. She still performs very well at what she does. But she's never felt inclined to be that person who's always like, had to be there, right? So she drove me to high school every day, and I remember like getting there, and I wanted to be there early, and I just remember like if I was going to be late, I was literally sweating and just like, oh my God, my teacher's going to be so mad at me, and like all these things, and it just felt like I was so anxious, and it felt out of control because she was bringing me and things like that. So when I had my own car, I was able to get myself there earlier and feel better and whatever. But since I have learned to let go of that a little bit more, I've been able to, arrive on time. And now sometimes like I'm a little bit late and things happen, and I just try not to let that become part of my identity.
Yeah.
Meetings run late, things like that. And I'm always on the go. So it's natural.
Right.
But if I were to be that person that I was 15 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever it was at this point, I don't even know, probably 12, 15 is probably closer. So yeah, it's kind of embarrassing at this point. But yeah, I mean, if I were to be that person today, I don't think that I would be as open and successful in doing the things that I do because of that control of having to know what's coming next and not being open to opportunities and things.
That's a great example. I was late to a meeting the other day, and I came in all flustered and all because I hate being late. My parents were habitually late, and so I've shifted that, and I hate it. So I came in all flustered and blah, 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 and at one point I was like, hold on. I just took a deep breath, and I expressed to the person that I was meeting with, I said, thank you for, your patience. And she could care less that I was late. But for me, it was like, I didn't want to show up in a certain way, but then I showed up all like a hot mess and not myself, not like I wanted to be. And I expressed that to her, and she understood, but I needed like it was like an old pattern, right? Coming back. So.
And you can feel that coming on, like it's like a surge, like a storm surge, almost like all this extra emotions coming in and trying to deal with it. And breathing is obviously one of the best things you can do, but having that awareness to slow down and just be in the moment. It's like, oh, this person didn't even care, couldn't even care at all that I was 2 minutes late or 5 minutes late or whatever it was. So.
Right. Yeah, and it's having the tools to then get yourself back into that alignment that you want, rather than staying in these controlling patterns, right? Knowing how to shift out of that.
For sure.
And then not carry that weight of being late. I used to do that too. I would leave the meeting and do the guilt and shame thing of, you're late, and just make myself feel bad. I was able to just leave and say, I had a great time with her, and look at that.
And sometimes people say that too. Like they'll point out that you're late or whatever. It's like, you don't think I know that? Like, I mean, I'm sure you get that too, right? Or at some points in people's lives, they have done that. But
and that just
now I don't get that. I think it's probably just the way I present myself. Like if I'm going to be late, it's most likely for a valid reason. So I don't think that that's usually ever a problem. But I think one of the biggest issues with control is the difficulty in trusting the process and the timing of what we want. And the more you can really let go of that, I think, like I said, all those other things kind of unfold. Like this was supposed to happen type of thing.
Yeah.
Trusting the process, everyone says it. But in a practical way, like nothing really is going to change if you're late, right? Or if you messed up something and it's out of order, all these things. So there's plenty more examples, but
I think that was one of the biggest things, one of the biggest lessons I had to learn was letting go. And I think majority of us do that and struggle with that. I
agree.
Yeah.
And control can be seen as boring, familiar, but not a lot of fun. And I think manifestation outcomes are realized or potentially realized in the unfamiliar. And like if you were to be able to predict your future for the next 50 years, how would that feel for you? Probably pretty boring.
Yeah. Monotonous and not exciting.
Yeah, you would not be excited. So I think it's a reframe for our audience to say, hey, this is actually really exciting that I don't know what's happening.
Right.
Because if I did, it would be absolutely boring and monotonous. And I would have trouble every day if I knew what was coming. So yeah, the growth shift for control is safety through self-trust and not control. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, me too. So our next one that we're going to talk about is achievement equals worth. And then that can lead to that conditional self-love. So if I get this job, then I'll be worthy enough. I'll be good enough. If I, get married at this time, then I'll be good enough. And, if I follow all these society's achievements and ideas of worth and achievements and success, then it's just that conditional love instead of unconditional love based on that, again, that openness and that trusting of the process.
Yeah, there's so many examples that, like this doesn't work for. Like, I think about our education system in particular. Like, if you were to have achieved your GED and then you're getting your bachelor's and a master's and like maybe a doctorate, and then obviously you have like some debt and stuff. Then you're coming up to be a major doctor or surgeon or whatever it might be, and you're tying that achievement to your worth, right? Well, what about the young kid who becomes a multimillionaire as an entrepreneur without a GED? And do you think that they're comparing themselves at the same level, or is one conditional and one unconditional? Like,
yeah, that's a good example.
Just thinking about the differences of like, it can't be, right? If these were the criteria for achievement and success and worth,
right?
How come this person has it and they didn't do that? Like, there's many other examples, but
well, and you think back to like when you were younger, like praise came from certain successes that you had, whether it be, family members or basketball coaches, and then lack thereof, right? If you weren't getting the praise, then what were you doing wrong? So there's this idea that you need to just work harder, or what do you need to do to get to that success level?
Like earn your respect, or hustle to earn, or whatever it might be. Even like on the emotional level, that feeling of love and safety feeling, like it had to be earned. And I think that was very prevalent for all of us in our generations now, but probably more so, like the sports example. I think that's a great example. Having a coach who might have said like, oh, you're on the team and you're not on the team, or, because you made 17 baskets in a row and you made 2,
right,
you don't have to run and you have to run. Like those sorts of things. Like, okay, I'm not worthy of this, my coach's, respect, attention, and blah, 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 because I have to run as a consequence to not making as much baskets. Like, things like that. Yes, you're going to have to perform to get better at the game, right? But there's other ways to kind of contribute to making someone still feel emotionally safe and able to do something in a positive way.
Right. We, a phrase that we say at home a lot is, we lift people up and we don't tear them down. And, you can do that in different ways. And, and that's kind of seems to be a way of not supporting the 2 basket player. Yeah.
No, I agree. And I think another thing that aligns with that too is tying your personal identity to how productive you are. And I mean, that's very challenging. I think it's challenging too, in a sense of when you work for yourself, because you are that brand face, you are that person that's putting themselves out there, and your productivity is directly tied to your outcomes. And so there has to be some sort of kind of switch off, or, something that's makes you feel validated outside of your work in order to just maintain your well-being in general. So feeling good despite any accomplishments you might have had or are aiming to have.
Yeah. And sometimes even with that, rest can feel undeserved too. Because if you're not successful in your business, if, independent entrepreneur, then you don't deserve success. You're not hustling hard enough. You're not working hard enough. That, and that again is another lesson to sometimes rest is actually more productive, than pushing hard. It's equal, but we don't necessarily look at it like that.
Yeah. I think of like a couple examples, like working out and having your muscles actually build and rest versus like you're tearing them when you're lifting and things like that.
Yes.
I think for me, it's been hard. This has been a hard topic because I have these things in my life, like in an actual level.
Yeah.
So rest does feel hard for me sometimes. But a good mentor of mine told me to slow down, to go faster. And so I try to keep that in the back of my head as I, work on these things and have some sort of momentum and flow with them. Yes. But at the same time, be like, it's okay to, like, sometimes I find myself convincing myself I need to take a break. It's like, you don't need to justify it. You can actually just take the break.
Right. So that growth shift then is that worthiness without proof. Like we are worthy regardless of our, title, how many kids we have, we don't have, what our house looks like. We are always worthy. So.
Absolutely. And probably another one that goes with the earlier topic of emotional regulation is avoidance in general, leading towards stagnation, not being able to make any choices and things like that as well, but also not being aligned. As a child, avoiding any discomfort or emotions that maybe didn't feel safe, it felt good to avoid, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we kind of aim for that because we didn't want those negative consequences to keep reappearing, like whether it was a parent yelling at you or, back then there was the wooden spoon and the belt, like things like that obviously are consequences. And so you tend to maybe avoid any emotions you were feeling about speaking up or, having those hard conversations or You just weren't aware that you had the ability to, but things are definitely different now compared to back then.
Yeah, it makes sense as to why a bunch of us, don't talk about emotions, don't understand emotions, because when and if we showed it, we were told by the adults in our lives not to, or we were told how we should feel in that way. Even my husband the other day was like, oh, you shouldn't feel like that. That's not a big deal. And I looked at him and I was like, no, that's a feeling.
Right.
And that's a feeling that they are having that you don't get to decide how they feel about it.
Right.
He didn't like that much, but no, he did, because
it could be easy for him, but not for your kids.
Exactly. And I even said to him, I was like, those emotions that they're feeling and about whatever it is, those are big for them in that moment, And again, it goes to trying to break that generational trauma, and we're trying to do it in little ways. And I think our current generation is really working on that emotional and intellectual, like that aspect. Maybe our grandparents, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. Our grandparents used the belt, used the spoon, right? So it was physical,
reinforcement.
Yes. Yeah. And then it came to our parents and they said, okay. And again, this is just in general, I guess. Not all parents, decided, okay, we're going to break that. We're not going to hit our kids, but we're going to yell at them.
Yeah.
And we're going to, then we're annoyed because they're feeling these emotions, and we just want it to
put them in the basement.
Yeah,
no,
exactly. Yes. Or go up to your room, and there's like no discussion and it's just get out of my way, get out of my face. I just can't handle this.
Yeah.
And so now our generation is like, okay, emotions and feelings are important. Let's talk about it. But again, every generation is trying to shift it in a different way. And so it's not going to be perfect. And so I think, my husband, I think, recognized, okay, yeah, I kind of hear that. But, it, regardless of whether it's the spoon or the belt or the yelling or the lack of being aware of the emotion, it depends on what's going on in the parent's life. Rob has a lot going on at work, and so he's not always consciously aware of how these things are happening, And then he goes back to the avoidance, right? He goes back to these things of trying to work through them in different ways.
So what he knows, what's in his tool belt.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, and kind of probably like unconsciously relates them to his problems at work. Like, okay, well, this problem happened at work and an adult faced it with this, and like my kids aren't doing that. So
true.
It doesn't matter for them because, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
another way.
Yeah, definitely another way. I think also staying in either relationships or misaligned jobs can be very hindering, and you're obviously avoiding either speaking up to your boss, telling them you want to leave. I know I did that for a while in my parents' business. Like, it was scary to talk to my parents and tell them that I didn't want to work in the family business anymore. And it's not because I don't love you.
Right.
It's because I'm meant to experience more.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of tell myself that they're going to be okay. They're going to find someone that can kind of fill the shoes that I had led for them. But it took a long time to build up that confidence to say, here's what I want to do. And, this is kind of why. And, you can, I didn't say you can choose not to support me, but they obviously support me and want to help in whatever way they can. So I'm really grateful for that. But if I were to have kept avoiding the situation, I would have felt that emotional pull for as long as I would have stayed there, because it was been myself and the identity I wanted to have fighting against my current identity. And those two did not mesh well.
And then how would you have shown up even if you stayed even longer?
I would have resented a lot, and it's not their fault.
Right.
Because technically it was my choice to still be there.
True.
But I felt a lot of weight and fear, what's going to happen? Are they going to shun me out because I don't want to be, running this place for the rest of my life? Or, are they going to think differently of me? Am I going to be okay? Like financially, emotionally, like what does that look like?
Right.
But on the other side of that fear, there was a lot of opportunities there's a lot of the same people I still get to see and help. And there's just kind of a weight lifted off from doing that. So,
and what I'm hearing is that you trusted the process.
Yeah. Yes, I did. I really trusted the process. Sometimes I don't even know what the process is, but I trusted in something and, kind of just kept going with it. And, I always told myself, okay, worst case scenario, I can go back. And so, I can find something else.
Right.
My focuses were basically amounting as many skills as I possibly could. So that way I would have an opportunity to go somewhere else if I wasn't going back there.
Right. But I think of, when we talk about relationships, I think of people also staying in like marriages. I'm doing it for the kids. And then it gets stagnant because again, you're not aligned with that person. You're not aligned with the environment. But you kind of avoid it because, you make up the excuses. Well, it'll be better for the kids, to stay together. But
it might not be.
Right. And then how are you showing up? If you're not happy in that relationship and you're bitter and you're resentful, then how are you showing up? And then again, how is that like trickling down to your kids? What are you showing and modeling for your kids? Sorry, my thing is all funky.
Yeah. Like could it be better if maybe you were either on your own or with a partner that is more aligned with you, and then you're modeling your positive self towards your kids versus staying in this marriage trying to make it work. And it's a great example.
Also, to your point, like living on your own, I just assume there would be a lot of fear, right? There's a lot of change that would then happen. Then co-parenting. There's a lot of other things, it's not just a simple cut and dry, we're divorced.
Right, obviously,
cool.
yeah.
But, and so that makes sense that there's a lot of anxiety and avoidance of it because it could be one way or another. But to your point, it could also be amazing. It could be maybe hard to live with somebody or find your own place, but it could also be amazing in its own way and more aligned. You would have the choice to figure out what you want, as a person.
Because there is a lot of compromise too in marriage, and like, if it's not what you had wanted or expected, then there's an alignment shift that needs to happen. Yeah, I think when you were just talking about that, what came to mind for me was just change in general, right? Like we're afraid of change. And I think we had talked about this like way long ago, but I think you asked me about like death or something like that, or people being afraid. Like, are you afraid to die, or like, what's your thoughts on death or something like that? And I replied with something along the lines of like, I'm not afraid of it. I'm not even afraid of it for other people, but I think other people are, and me potentially too, just afraid of the change, right? You're afraid of the change of that person no longer being in your life, how to navigate, because you've never lived without them, right? Yeah. For the most part. Yep. God forbid it's a child or something like that, but the difference is really the change, and that's where a lot of fear comes from, because it's the unknown. Am I going to be able to, live without this person? Yeah. And the same thing happens in romantic relationships with when you're married or you're breaking up with somebody. It's a death of your prior self, and you're saying like, okay, now I have to sever this part off of me because I can no longer picture this person with me anymore. Or I can never, literally never see this person anymore because they have passed. But the difference too is thinking about, what good can come with it, or the opportunities that might surface, or maybe the good feelings for that person, that they're no longer in pain. We don't know what heaven looks like. Maybe it's better. So all of these things.
Yeah. And I just wrote down, I had a lot of thoughts to that. I put onion because like, I think we are constantly shedding like the old person, or even we grow and then that shifts and changes. And how was I going to relate it to what you were talking about?
I mean, throughout life, I think like just relating back to that death part, like every person that passed away in our life, we've had to create a new identity for ourselves. Yeah. With that person no longer there. And that's just a change. Like we're constantly evolving, constantly changing in ways, and we have to be emotionally adaptable to that.
Change is the only constant, which I have to say to myself over and over because it's true. And then it's getting more comfortable with it or more aware. I put hindsight. So losing my grandma was really, really, really tough. And, you know, looking back on it now, she was out of pain then. And being grateful for the time that I did have with her. I had a lot of time. I was in my 20s when she passed. And I started running because we started doing a 5K in her memory and honor. And, you know, I would have never done that had she not passed. And not that like it was a good thing that she died, but, you know, how did I learn and grow from that? And it's so interesting that you're talking about that because today I was just walking around my house going, I miss you, Grandma. Aww. Like but spirituality wise, who's to say that she's not like with me? Right. That's what I ended on was she's physically gone. Right. But
yeah, the energy has just transmuted in one way or another. So, yeah, I mean, I think the biggest like point for me where I kind of realized that was I experienced a breakup and a close family member death at the same time, and grief felt the same.
Yeah.
So for me, that was like, I'm sad either way. Like it's just grief, right?
Right.
So, yeah, those changes can really feel just like a death to one part of your identity. I suppose is a good way to put it.
And this all goes back to avoiding.
It all goes back to avoiding.
So don't avoid things because. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
You don't want to become stagnant. And so you might have to have those hard conversations. You may, you know, have to figure out a relationship that is more fulfilling and, you know, fills you up. That's fulfilling.
Fills you up, fills your cup up. Yeah, absolutely. And I think also the growth shift for this mechanism is going from avoidance to a gentle courage and giving yourself that grace in having those conversations, speaking up, you know, making changes and getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. So. I just thought when you said gentle courage, I thought of the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz.
There you go.
Like kind of, I love that. He's very, like he avoided all those things until he actually had the courage to do them. So I don't know.
That's a good point.
I digress. But okay. So our next topic is seeking external validation. Man, let's talk about that with social media. How many likes do I get? And then that can lead to that loss of internal voice. Really, the reason why. Why are you doing things? Why are you posting that? Are you posting it for the likes or, you know, why? What you're doing is you're looking for others then, for their safety, for their approval, for their direction, and not having your own internal voice, your own internal confidence to, you know, you have I've learned this about myself. I have a conflict. I used to go to everybody. What should I do? What do you think I should do? I like their answer. I don't like their answer. And it was, I mean, obviously now looking at it, it's like, well, I felt more aligned with that response. But now I'm using my hands a lot today.
Did you personally like go with that person, like that person's answer, or the person you didn't feel aligned with most of the time?
That's a great question. I don't know that I can give you a specific answer right now, but I think in general, I was looking for everybody else to tell me what to do because I didn't have my own internal voice or awareness, or I know what I need to do. In every situation, we all know what we need to do internally. That's what I do as a coach is I pull it out of you because it's what you are aligned with, what you feel comfortable with. So I know that. And I would always seek external validation, regardless of social media. Like,
I guess I was asking too, like you kind of created like maybe a self questionnaire for you. Like, okay,
fill out this Google form, please.
I like this answer from this person and not from this person. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, were you more with this person or this person? And then like that's kind of where you headed. I assumed. Unless there was true internal conflict, then you were probably like, you know, I'm going to go with this answer.
Right.
Because that's my ego.
Right.
And not my gut and my intuition saying, no, this is the right thing to do.
True. And maybe whoever filled my ego, maybe I kind of went with them too.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I was asking you. But I don't know. It's a question to ponder, I guess.
It is.
In today's world, I really try and stick to my intuition and my gut, because that is such a strong indicator.
Yes.
You can kind of feel your ego popping up and whatever it might be, but especially with social media and things like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can get likes or comments or whatever you want on your posts, and if people, it could even be the people in that audience that aren't really resonating with it, right? Like, I know my Instagram following is much different than my Facebook following and my LinkedIn following. Mm-hmm. Where if I were to post something that was specifically related to work on my Instagram, I probably maybe have a couple likes, I don't know. But then on my LinkedIn, it's like so many, because it's all that focus. So I think there in and of itself just says like, you're not validated by external things, because either way, it was the same thing. It's the same person with the same message.
Right.
And so whether someone else likes it or not, that's really on them.
Right. It's tricky because I don't know. I keep using the word tricky. Maybe I should shift that. When you need that external validation constantly, you can't make your own decisions. You need constant reassurance. How does this look on me? Do I look fat? And again, going back to that energy idea, think about the energy that it just sucks away from you. Like, oh my gosh, what is, back to the people pleasing. Like, again, these can all kind of relate, but you can't stand in your own power, and make maybe it's a difficult decision, but doing it on your own. Without feeling like you need to either explain yourself or get approval from other people. Yeah.
I think losing your voice with the external validation too, because you're automatically putting the other person or the other thing on a pedestal when you're going for their validation, right? So you're just creating a self unworthiness because you're not up there in your mind in accordance to them. Their opinion is more valuable on this topic than yours is to yourself on this topic. And once you can kind of learn to place yourself up on that pedestal, not in an ego way, but in a self-respect way, then you're going to get your voice back. You're going to have easier decisions being made. And you're just not going to need any permission from anyone to want more.
Right.
So one of the big things for me, great examples, is like I have big ideas, like grandiose ideas, right? And I was so afraid of what other people were going to think with these things, but now I just do them. And regardless of what people think, I did it for my own satisfaction and hopefully helping other people along the way.
Yeah.
And if I went with my ego that was constantly putting fear in me, then I wouldn't have done those things.
No.
But if I went with my gut, which I did and continue to do, I keep putting out things that are going to be creative and beneficial to society.
Right. That feel good for you.
Because I have a personal sense of fulfillment.
Yes.
And yes, there's some accomplishments in there too, because those are milestones that I want to hit.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily rely on anyone else.
Right.
They're more of like, can I do this? And then I can see if I can do it or not. And if I can't, then there hasn't been that yet. But
that was one thing that I really appreciated about you when we first met is you're just like, I'm going to do this. I have this idea and I just want to do this. And I could feel that you didn't, it's not that you didn't like care per se, but like you weren't looking for that validation. You're like, I'm going to do this. And you even said like, sometimes some things work, sometimes some things don't, but if I don't do it, then I don't know, if I don't take that risk, that chance, and it's, you don't second guess your intuition. You feel it, you go with it, and because that's you. Yeah.
And you don't get, what you don't ask for either. So you have to make sure that if you're asking for these opportunities and things that are going to happen, then
Right.
you're going to have a better outcome,
Yeah.
most likely.
Yeah.
But if it just stays up here in your head and you never do it, then
Yes. Right.
how's he going to get out there?
Right. Exactly.
So I think that comes into the loss of your voice as well.
So that growth shift here is learning to self-validate. You, yourself,
Are valid.
Yeah.
You're valid. Yeah.
say me,
It's
myself,
actually
and I.
like a saying now. I'm sure you've probably heard that. Like the kids, they're all saying that. It's valid.
Oh.
It's valid.
Isabel, bro.
Yeah.
We'll have a segment just on all those things.
Yeah.
We'll invite the
Bloopers.
kids.
Yeah. Okay. So survival mode. That's the last of the 10th we're going to talk about today for coping mechanisms. Really, as a child, being in that survivor mode, and then coming into adulthood today, it's the inability to receive, and it goes back to our masculine, feminine energy conversations earlier on. So important. When you're in a state of survival mode, you're always alert. You're always staying prepared and resourceful, and that can be good, right, at times. But we have to learn to take that off, like just chill. And then we're able to receive. And, being in survival mode, being in hustle grind culture, definitely on the masculine side, being in the ability to receive on the feminine side, and enjoying your rest and your success and things like that. Otherwise, that comes into difficulty resting, like we were talking about before, difficulty celebrating your accomplishments and success for whatever that means for you.
Right.
And waiting for that shoe to drop. That's something that I have felt several times in my life, like, oh, it's going so great. And I've been hustling, I've been grinding. And now as soon as I stop,
Yeah.
then everything's going to go to
Right.
shit.
Right.
But it's not, right? You're going to be fine.
Right.
So being able to have rest put in there as well, I think is very important.
Yeah. I think you brought up a good point of almost knowing when it's okay to stay in survival mode, or like if you're doing it by choice, or if you're doing it because it's an old pattern or habit. So, for example, when we moved, I completely went into survival mode because it was such a life shift. I was just talking to somebody and they called it a life quake. And I was like, I love that. Apparently there's a book, so look it up. Because that's exactly what it was. It was everything just kind of jumbled and shifted, not like catastrophically, but just a little bit. And I knew that I was in survival mode, and I did that to protect myself, right? I kind of needed to do that. Go ahead.
Protect yourself from what? That's the question, right? We're gonna ask ourselves now, why are we doing that, and what are we protecting ourselves from? Right? It's a fear of something.
True. And for me, it was the unknown. It was literally shifting neighborhoods. It was moving. Lots of different things. More
and now on the other side, looking at it,
yeah.
like how has it felt because you slowly opened yourself up to new opportunities and your new neighborhood and things like that?
It's been good. It took longer than I had anticipated. I will say that. And I don't know if that's, we can dive in after, why it took that long, but maybe because I needed it. I needed that time. And now, I'm just really appreciative of it. And I'm feeling more comfortable with and at ease with the abundance and not feeling like the shoe's waiting for the shoe to drop, or how is this not going to work out, or what's going to be wrong with that. And I'm enjoying the success. I'm enjoying all of it now. But I think it was just such a, I don't know, it's a big thing.
It's changed not only in physical and emotional, but that's your identity changing.
Yes.
So now I was Krista in this house, and this is kind of what we did there.
Yeah.
And now I'm Krista in this house, and this is what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And it's just like a different switch and change in identity too. And I think that's important to recognize. But, potentially if you were to have not have those fears and not clung on to them for so long.
True.
I'm assuming you would have most likely been able to open up to those opportunities a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to get at. But
it is interesting to look through all of these different things and see how and when they've showed up, not in my life. And how they, go hand in hand sometimes, how they affect other people in different ways. And, it's what we've learned throughout childhood. It's those things those barriers that we've learned. But again, what we're kind of getting at here is that it doesn't have to be that way. By having some awareness and understanding of it, there is a way to shift out of it and live more freely and more abundantly and just awesomely. Yeah. And I agree too. Like a couple examples for me are like instability and inconsistency within my paycheck for my career. It's up and down. It's not typically stable. And so if I were to have related that to any sort of self-worth or anything like that, validation, then I would have been more in survival mode. And I think that because I recognize that the two aren't linked, that I've been able to disconnect myself a little bit more from that survival mode. Yeah.
Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to receive anything.
Right.
And then when I was in my past career, there was a lot of ups and downs emotionally because, as a kid, especially with my dad, he was my dad and my boss. So I had to kind of switch things on and off at home, right? There was a time where he was very loving and nurturing. And then there was another time where he was like, no, we got to bang this out. We got to get this done. Like maybe yelled here and there and raised his voice or whatever it might have been. Yeah. And so for me, that was very hard to stay emotionally consistent when it was a roller coaster.
Yes.
And disconnecting myself from that that means my self-worth is low.
Right.
When that's not the case.
Right. Huh. Yeah. That's a really good example too.
Yeah, probably one of the hardest things I've had to overcome. I talk about it very easily now, but at the time it was like, why is this happening to me and why can't I overcome it? And then it's like, okay, well, I learned about this and how this worked back then, but now it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. So that growth shift is teaching your nervous system that it's safe now, that you're safe. So I know we are coming up on the end.
I think a good reframe that we can end with is, none of these traits or coping mechanisms are ever wrong. They weren't bad. Still used today, obviously. They worked for a time period in your life for a reason. They protected you. They kept you feeling safe. But the protections that they might have had for you as a child could be limiting you today as an adult. So just because something helped you get to where you are now doesn't mean that it can bring you forward. And on the next episode, we'll talk about some of the ways that you'll be able to shift into new ways that you might be able to kind of create who you want to become in a more efficient way now.
Yeah. And we're going to be having some guests come up in the future, and we're very excited about that too. So if you enjoyed this episode today, like and subscribe to our channel for more content to help you level up. And remember, your journey to empowered abundance continues on the next episode. Thanks for listening to Vibe and Shine podcast. Keep shining bright.